Hello there guys, RMP792 here. So, we are now continuing our little hypothetical what would I do if I had control of the DCEU series. And the character I would like to talk about today is Booster Gold, because I got a request to talk about Booster Gold. So, for anybody not aware, the basic backstory of Booster Gold is he is a athlete from the future. So I think it's somewhere in about the 2600s, but I would have to look that up to know for sure. Who, for various reasons, ends up losing his sporting career. And there's been a couple of variations in his origin story about why that happened. In some he basically gets thrown out for illegal gambling and things like that, and so on and so forth. So there's a few places you could do that, and I'll talk about what I specifically would do in a minute. But yeah, and he realizes that the most famous people he knows are superheroes because they're still remembered and still lauded and praised even in his time period. So he comes up with a plan to basically steal a bunch of what for his time is contemporary technology, travel back in time to the 20th century, early 21st century, so now basically, and use his knowledge of future events to make himself the greatest superhero the world has ever seen, so he will be remembered for all time, because he's kind of a dick. That's basically Booster Gold's setup. He's never exactly successful in his endeavours, because, well, he's not a very good superhero in a lot of ways, because his focus is too much on himself and not on not on the greater good, not on doing the superheroics because they are superheroics that need doing. There's actually a really good episode of Justice League Unlimited that focuses on Booster Gold and him constantly getting stuck on the sidelines and not being able to do anything. And there's the hilarious bit where a kid comes up to him and asks for his autograph, and he signs it, really pleased, because finally he's getting some recognition, and he heads back to the kid because "Oh, I thought you were Green Lantern," and walks off disappointed. And the entire audience is like, "He's gold." He's called Booster Gold because, well, for one thing, his armor is gold. And the other semi-important thing about him is that he has a little robot buddy who's about, yay big, hovers, called Skeets. And, in any hypothetical film adaptation I did, Skeets would be an opportunity for some, I want to say, either snarky British character actor or possibly just full-on comedian, to, just have a bit of fun playing a really, really snarky robot. But yeah, so the question is, if we're going to do a Booster Gold movie, what is its overall tone? What is its genre? Booster Gold is an underdog sports movie, is what I would do with it. In terms of your basic underdog sports movie is down on their luck character, gets the chance to win at some major sporting event through some slightly contrived circumstances. They either do it alone, or it's depending on the sport in question. It might be a team sport, and then there's some trials and tribulations, and then eventually they come together and they win in the grand finale, and everything's great. And in this context, the sport in question is crime, or some natural disaster, or something. Is superheroics basically. And this, I think, would be interesting because it would allow you to see the Booster Gold has to be a crossover movie. His first film has to feature prominent members of the League because Booster Gold's entire thing is going back in time to try and usurp their place in history. And I would start Booster Gold's story off in the future. We need to know why he's doing what he's doing. So rather than have him get thrown out of his, we need to see the potential good in this character, because while Booster Gold works really well as a supporting character when he's just a bit of a prick, I think if you're going to hang a film off him, you need to understand why he's a bit of a prick. So I would basically have it start in the future. It's some sporting event. And again, you can either make that a modern sport, or you can create an entirely new sport, or you can you can have a current sport but with future modifications. You could have fun with it. It's some big match, and it's his big chance to really show the world who he is and why he's really good at this sport. He's college athlete moving up to the big leagues, sort of thing. And he gets injured. Something goes wrong. There's an accident. He gets wounded, and it's a considerable he's considerably hurt. The kind of thing that will be a permanently crippling injury now. And thanks to swanky future tech, he is able to fully recover, but it takes a while. It takes 6 months to a year. And by the time he's actually finished going through all his physiotherapy and everything else, the world no longer gives a damn. All of those potential offers from professional sports teams have gone away because they've just moved on to the next generation of college athletes. And again, you can have some fun with this, poking fun at things like the fact that collegiate athletes don't get paid at the moment, and things like that. You could have some fun having a bit of a poke, is what I would say. And again, I don't know enough about the professional sports world to know where all the really good humour there is and where all the good satire points are, but there are lots of them. I'm confident saying they are there. All you need is to bring in a couple of people who know what they're talking about, and say, okay, what's the what works here? And so we see him basically, maybe he goes to like a Superman museum or a Justice League museum or something like that. Again, the Flash this season has been getting mileage out of seeing the Flash Museum in the future. So I'd kind of like to see a version of that, but on a grander scale for the entire Justice League. And he's looking at I don't know, a statue of Superman or a statue of Shazam or whoever, and is like, I could do that. And he formulates this plan. He steals this advanced technology and travels back in time. And all of this is like the first 20, 30 minutes of this movie. All of this is set up for the main plot. This is Act 1, effectively. And Act 2 is, in any of your underdog sports movies, Act 2 is the bit where, they get some initial victories, and then there's the midpoint where, something goes wrong. Something gets cocked up. And in this case, my suggestion would be Booster Gold basically travels back to what he knows will be a major attack by, I don't know, some important villain. You can name drop somebody important. Maybe it's the return of a previous villain we've already seen, or something like that. Or if you really want to play with it, no. Here's the thing: if Batman v Superman hadn't been a pile of absolute hot garbage, I would have been tempted to say have Booster Gold travel back and interfere in that big fight at the end of Batman v Superman where they're fighting Doomsday. But no, Batman v Superman's too much hot garbage. I don't want, at this point I kind of don't even want that film being acknowledged. So he travels back to some big event. He arrives, a few days before, starts to establish himself as a hero. Making sure that people know his name. He's handing out signed autographs. He's again, this will have a similar sort of tone to Shazam recently, where where Billy's first getting used to his powers, and he's and handing out autographs and showing off for crowds and stuff like that. You're going for that sort of vibe, and Booster is clearly reveling in the adoration of crowds, and he does the classic thing where he saves a woman from a burning building or something like that, and then immediately hits on her, and she's just like, okay, bit creepy there, dude. And again, the public will start to get the vibe that he's doing this for himself, not because it's the right thing to do. And then, his goal is to basically, he knows that Mongol or something like, again, pick some villain with enough name recognition that nerds will geek out over it, but not enough that the general public gives a damn. basically, is my suggestion for this. They're attacking, there's a big fight. In the version of history that Booster Gold knows, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, whoever, successfully defeat this villain, and he's locked up. All well and good. And up until this point, Booster has been gaining and gaining and gaining in confidence to the point where he's now basically an arrogant prick who's convinced that because of his future tech he can't possibly fail. And then he ends up cocking things up, and the villain gets away, or some people get hurt, or one of the heroes ends up getting badly injured as a result of Booster attempting to interfere and change history to make himself the grand hero. And this is where Booster hits his low moment, when he actually realizes, that he cocked up. Again, he needs to have a yelling at from the other members of the League. And the entire point of this is, from his perspective, the League are basically gods yelling at him for being a pathetic mortal, to all intents and purposes. This is turning up and, this is turning up at, Charles Dickens' birthday party and passing him your book that you think is a masterpiece, and him just laughing in your face and chucking it on the fire and pissing off. That's the vibe you're going for. The League, you need to understand in this scene that the League are right, but that they are kind of being a little bit arrogant towards him. And again, that's going to be that'll be a very hard line to walk. And again, that will be entirely in the hands of the writing and the performance. But at that point, Booster Gold is at his lowest ebb. He's cocked everything up, and that's when he discovers, that as a in some versions, Skeets is still connected to the future, and so knows how what Booster has done changes the timeline. And Skeets basically reports that, whoopsie diddles, Master, as a result of what you've done, Mongol comes back in about in about 6 months and completely destroys the Earth. You might want to get out of here, sir. And Booster realizes how badly he's cocked up. He hits his lowest point, and he falls apart completely, because everything he's tried to do has failed and made things worse. The League won't listen to him because he's a douchebag. And he completely falls apart. And then there needs to be someone or something that gives him the pep talk, that gets him to believe again. And there's a lot of different things you could do with it. The obvious, slightly hack solution is, a love interest. Personally, I would lean against that, and I would have it just be something minor, or something that reminds him who he is. So if you tie it all the way back to the beginning, it's some college kid, or some high school kid or something like that, somebody young, younger than Booster. So I'd say high school looking to get into college, on a sports scholarship, and they've been, and they've injured themselves, that he ends up just kind of wandering around, Metropolis or whichever city it's in, and he ends up at a football game, and there's just this kid in the crowd who was trying for a scholarship, and they end up getting talking, and the kid's badly twisted his ankle, so he won't be able to play in the game when the recruiters are going to be there. So and as a result, he's not going to get the chance to go to college and be all that he could be. And that is what makes Booster Gold remember who and what he is. And he sees himself in this kid, and he ends up using his future technology rather sneakily to heal up the kid's injured leg, so that he can actually play his big game and go on to be a sports star or something like that. And if they hadn't already established him, I would actually drop a bunch of subtle hints that the kid I'm talking about would actually be Victor Stone, a cyborg. Now again, he's already established, so you can't do that. But that would be a fun little thing, and that the game that Booster has actually just made sure he plays is the one in which he does get, actually no, it's a car crash that damn near kills him, isn't it? Or yeah, he plays in the game, he's really happy, everything's going great, he's driving home, and that's when he gets into the car crash that basically cripples him. But he got to live his dream for that brief moment because of a simple act of human kindness. And that's what basically gets Booster to bugger off out of his despondency and go and track down the villain, do the superheroic stuff, not because he's doing it for fame, not because he's doing it for glory, not because he's trying to not because he's trying to usurp any of the heroes, but because it's his mistake that has to be fixed. And eventually he hands over Mongol to the League, and basically, I'm kind of tempted to say he doesn't, and they apologise for for being dicks to him, and he actually admits, no, they were right. You were right. I was being an idiot. And he's walking off, and he's going to return to the future and just own up for stealing the super suit and everything else. And then one of the League comes over, and I'm really given how they establish his character, I'm really tempted to say it should be Billy Batson Shazam. And they just have a talk about what it means to be a hero, and that in that moment Booster showed that he could be. And and that if he wants to stay, he is welcome amongst the League. Provided he stops being such a dick. And we don't. And the film should end without definitive clarification as to whether or not Booster stays. Without definitive clarification of whether or not he decides, that he is worthy of being amongst his heroes. But so that is my basic overview of how I would handle a Booster Gold movie. And as I said, it's basically an underdog sports movie in a lot of ways. I think all that makes sense. As I said, that it would have to be a midway through kind of a movie. This is the equivalent of a Phase 2 Marvel movie, because you need enough heroes established that they can turn up for some cameos, and the Justice League needs to be fully established, while also not having them in a position where they're completely adored by. They're well on their way to being what Booster knows them as in his time, but they're not there yet. I think that's all I've got on Booster Gold. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Not yet decided what the next one of these is going to be, but when I figure it out, I will. I'll waffle for 20 minutes, and if you enjoy it, thank you very much for watching. So, yep, that's that's all I've got. Kind of fell apart at the end there when my brain just went blank, but yes, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in future videos.